Guilt. Are you guilty? Do you feel racked by guilt? Are you to blame for this, that, or that other thing? And if so, do you lose sleep over it? Do you lose food? Do you eat too much because of it? Do you have all sorts of different reactions to something which you actually, honestly, let's be honest, it's completely out of your control? Do you not even really know what it is? In the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to solve all of your problems. Actually, I won't. I'll give you some tools and tricks and techniques you can use to sort of measure it up and figure out what to do with it. Let's figure out what the heck it is. Let's start off with a dictionary. According to the dictionary, what does it say? It says, the fact of having committed a breach of conduct, especially violating the law and involving a penalty. The state of one who has committed an offense, especially, is that a word? Especially consciously, say that 10 times fast. Feeling of deserving blame. This one, I think this is the one we're talking about here. Feeling of deserving blame, especially for imagined offenses or from a sense of inadequacy. Ooh, I didn't cover that one. And the last one is feeling of deserving blame for offenses. Let's get to this video, shall we? I'm gonna give you a technique for you'll trust me on this. It won't hurt much. As you know, I'm not the kind of guy to give advice, tell people what to do. But what I do believe really, really helps is to put a framework on this stuff. And then you'll know what to do. Like a map, you know where you are and where you're going. If the map is good, you can get there, usually a whole lot faster. Let's see if this works. First of all, let's figure out what is not part of this map, shall we? Guilt is different again from shame. Shame is much more when you're socially violated, culturally violated. And guilt is more your own personal values and morals. But wait, there's more. Regret happens when an opportunity is missed and you're not really taking as much responsibility for it as you would if it were. Remorse. Now, remorse is when you acknowledge a regret and you're kind of taking more ownership of it. Although it doesn't suggest you necessarily have a plan in motion. This is a ridiculously large set of things. Each of them could probably have a talk on their own for evaluation. The entire field of grief includes all of these things. We're just looking at guilt right now. And I assure you, even though we're just looking at guilt, who knows if it's going to fit in a nice tight 5-10 minute package. I'll do my best. Guilt is nifty because in order to avoid that guilt, in that situation, you should have known better, but you didn't. So you can look back with the information you have now and say, oh my goodness, now that I know this and it's so clear and it's so obvious, why didn't I do better in that situation? It's obvious. And then the other one that sort of sidewinds you, blindsides you, something that gets you from the side when you're looking over there. That other thing that really nukes you, that had you been able to make that decision again, you'd still make that same decision. And you feel bad about it. Why aren't I a better person? Why didn't I sacrifice myself for this greater good? These are huge cans of worms. This involves all that destiny and fate and free will and chance, and each of those is strings of videos. No. I'm going to lead you straight down the garden path. No, bad analogy. I'm going to get you through this without worrying about where the rutabaga or the turnips are growing, okay? Just get you through this really simply. Guilt is actually a legal term. This helps us out a lot. For example, with manslaughter, it sounds pretty intense, but what happens is you make a huge mistake based on carelessness. You have no plans on hurting anyone. Things go south, like you're speeding along a road, you hit a patch of black ice, your car goes out of control, or you're running a business and you really have to make a deadline. You cut some safeties, the blue helmets show up after the fact and go, oh my goodness, but it doesn't mean you have any kind of mens rea or criminal intent there. And I'm probably going to have to relook up mens rea again. Not a lawyer, okay? Not a lawyer. In order for you to feel guilty, there has to be somebody who's a victim. If you have no victim, you're still welcome to feel guilt, but it makes no sense. It's like, was there a crime? No. All right, then. Why is your conscience going over this if there's no victim? This makes for a weirdly set of moving goalposts. They get to be the judge and jury for how guilty you are, right? That how it works? Let's just take a trivial example. Hey, did you eat my birthday cake? Well, yeah, you said you're on a diet, and I wanted to help you out with that. And I didn't think it would be fair to ask you first. Look, if you want, I'll get you more cake. Oh, wait a minute. If you ate my cake in order to try to help me out, I feel better about it. Even the very fact that you say sorry to someone. Ooh, I stepped on your foot and it's bleeding. Sorry, you feel better. Your foot is still injured. It's still bleeding. Even if the person goes over and, as a joke, stomps on your foot and then says, ooh, depending on the degree to which someone's stomped on your foot. Oh, why'd you do that? I thought it was funny, but now, in retrospect, that seems like a really crappy move on my part. Could I say I'm sorry? I'll get you an ice pack. And then suddenly you just feel better. You know, do you see how these moving goalposts are just so arbitrary? This is the foundation of the guilt. It gets better. Check this out. In order for this to work, you have to have judgment on everyone's part. There has to be this degree to which someone has judged you as guilty and you accept it. The old Socratic, Platonic, Aristotelian concept of justified true belief. For you to feel guilty about anything, you need to say, wow, I failed them and I could have done better. And you see, like all the levels of crime. And then the weird thing is then you have to suss yourself out in such a way, now that you're convicted, you're not allowed to go to jail. You're not allowed to pay the fine. Otherwise, you just resolve the guilt immediately. I'm sorry, I kicked your kid in the head. Here's $50. That good? 60? Do you see what I mean? At that point in time, are you then off the hook for kicking that person's, if the parent says, oh my goodness, $60, that covers it. See all these shifting, moving goalposts all over the place? If you could just nail these down for a sec, you wouldn't have to go on to all that free will, destiny, fate crap. You could just say, am I guilty of this crime? Is there a victim? And could I have done any better in that situation? Map out two major things. One is the research into victimology. This is going to sound strange, but to what extent do people have the right to be the victim? Because if they don't have any rights to be a victim, a lot of really uncool things become okay, right? I mean, if somebody gets hit by a car when they weren't expecting it, they are a victim. And someone should do their best to take care of that person. As a society, we should figure out how to take care of people when accidents happen. Intended or not intended accident. This becomes especially powerful with cultural artifacts. Easy example, in India, if you terminally injure a cow, killing a cow, intentionally or not, that can be a lifetime sentence in some states. Also in India, if you terminally injure a cow, it might require them to immediately fire up the barbecue. This is different states around the same cow, depending on how it would wander over a state line. Could you imagine? Oh, my goodness, you're going to jail for life. Oh, wait a minute, that was 2 feet in that direction. Join us for the carnival. To what extent does that one group of people, probably hundreds of millions of people, feel justified in your killing their sacred cow? And to what extent does that other group of people, are they justified that they just killed their neighbor's cow? Who's the victim? How's that work? If you work through this, then the rest is actually fairly easy. Once you recognize how much people have a right to be victimized, then the rest is trying to figure out what it would take to pay that off. What's that worth? Because as far as I can tell, this functions on a very, very simple one-dimensional flowchart. If people have your permission to be the victim and you are convicted, you're the convict here, you must pay off your sentence. And if you feel that you must pay off your sentence, then the second task is to find out what's the charge. Guilty as charged. What's the charge? What do I need to do to get out of this? And once again, if somebody says there is no way out of this, then it makes no sense. If there's a crime and the punishment doesn't have a sentence to it, you can't get out of it. I struggle to make this clear how absolutely unfair that would be. if somebody would be charged for shoplifting and you say, well, now you're a pariah inside your own mind for life, it seems a bit unfair. Yes, I stole some things, maybe because I was hungry or to feed my family, or maybe just because it was kind of fun and I liked the thrill. That doesn't matter. What matters is there's a victim here, and how they feel matters to the extent they feel victimized. Now, the next step is to say, okay, so you feel bad. What's the price until you feel I've suffered enough and you're going to take your feeling bad, whether or not it goes away, and I am off the hook. Then you can take those other things like free will and destiny and what decisions you're allowed to make in society and just crumple them up and throw them into the garbage because they don't matter. Victim, price. Cover those two things. I don't know what else there is. Please get back to me. You can put the comments, tell me, goodness gracious, Tim, have you ever missed the ball? Like, that's fine. If I've missed the ball, let me know how. And once again, I think the best tool out of all the tricks and gadgets I have created for you, the active journal, where you take these things apart on a day-to-day basis and look at previous or planned next versions of yourself and how the group of you will handle them.